Picture two women living like queens in the center of one of the world's most expensive cities, paying next to nothing, while taxpayers unknowingly pick up the tab. For a very long time, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie enjoyed a pristine, lavish existence tucked safely within the grounds of royal palaces. But a discreet investigation into their private living arrangements has now torn the polished facade wide open. A gaping hole in the Crown Estate's record-keeping has just been brought to light, and the very properties sheltering them may be the catalyst that sends their carefully constructed world into freefall. What probers have been quietly uncovering behind the walls of those storied buildings has rippled through the monarchy like an earthquake, igniting a hushed internal conflict the family fought desperately to suppress. The net is closing in, and by the time this video ends, you will witness the precise moment the royal armor of protection cracked beyond repair. If you want to stay one step ahead of the truths the palace is scrambling to conceal, hit that subscribe button and join our community now. You truly cannot afford to miss a single development as this royal reckoning plays out in real time. The polished public image of these two globe-trotting sisters was always something of a fragile illusion. Beatrice and Eugenie projected themselves as the ideal modern-day aristocrats, women who juggled respectable corporate careers alongside the undeniable privileges of their royal bloodline. One navigated the high-powered technology industry. The other ran a prestigious international art gallery. On paper, both drew relatively ordinary professional salaries, the type of income that forces most working people to plan carefully before booking a single holiday. But behind closed doors, the story was strikingly different. Sources close to the family claim that within just one calendar year, Beatrice alone embarked on a staggering 16 luxury breaks, everything from five-star Caribbean retreats to exclusive alpine ski lodges and sun-drenched private yachts drifting through the Mediterranean. The numbers simply did not stack up, and those within palace circles began asking the uncomfortable question, how could two women with no official royal duties and average corporate incomes maintain such an extraordinary standard of living without dipping into public money? For a considerable period, palace insiders managed to keep that question firmly under wraps. However, the carefully cultivated myth of self-sufficient prosperity was always standing on unstable ground, and public suspicion gradually transformed into outright frustration. The glaring gap between their reported earnings and their lived reality became too wide to overlook. Quiet murmuring escalated into vocal demands for accountability, and right as that pressure became unbearable, an independent party turned its attention to the one domain the sisters had always considered untouchable. Investigators began casting a focused eye on the exclusive properties the pair occupied in some of London's most coveted locations. And what lay beneath the grandeur of those historic buildings was a secret of enormous proportions. What was quietly being pieced together within those ancient walls did not merely pose a threat to their lifestyle. It was on the verge of triggering a housing controversy of a scale that could destabilize the monarchy to its very core. A tangled web of elite real estate arrangements has placed Beatrice and Eugenie squarely in the crosshairs of public accountability. Over the years, the two have enjoyed access to prime residential properties at the heart of London's most historic royal estates, namely a sprawling four-story apartment within St. James's Palace and Ivy Cottage, a three-bedroom residence nestled within the Kensington Palace grounds. To most observers, these coveted addresses are the embodiment of inherited privilege at its most extreme. Yet a string of newly surfaced details about how these tenancies were originally secured has ignited a fierce debate over the openness of royal housing agreements. According to reporting by The Times, these highly sought-after properties were not allocated through conventional or transparent processes. Sources suggest that a behind-the-scenes arrangement was put in place by their father, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, with the explicit intention of preserving a permanent royal foothold for his daughters. While the public was initially led to believe these were routine allocations, scrutiny has since shifted to the precise financial terms underpinning those leases. Estimates indicate that the rent paid on these multi-million-pound central London properties sat dramatically below prevailing market rates, with figures of approximately $1,600 per month cited for a 4-story palatial flat in an area where comparable homes can command well over $100,000 annually. That vast discrepancy has thrust the issue of subsidized royal accommodation into the national conversation, raising pointed questions about the fairness of institutional privilege. Critics are quick to note that since neither sister holds an active working role within the crown, they are effectively private individuals drawing private incomes, yet they continue to occupy publicly significant assets under extraordinarily favorable terms, all while ordinary Londoners contend with one of the most brutal rental markets in the world. The picture is made even murkier by evidence of how the sisters actually use these residences. Reports indicate that Beatrice lives primarily with her family in a countryside home in Oxfordshire, while Eugenie routinely divides her time between the UK and a luxury resort property in Portugal, meaning these landmark palace apartments appear to function not as primary homes but as convenient secondary city bases. Parliamentary oversight bodies have taken note, with the Public Accounts Committee launching a sweeping review of Crown estate leases to catalogue every undisclosed arrangement linked to minor royals. Though palace representatives insist rental proceeds feed back into the sovereign grant to support official functions, the forthcoming inquiry has put total financial transparency firmly on the agenda. But unsettling as this property probe may be, it is only the opening act, because as investigators dig deeper into their real estate holdings, a far darker financial shadow from the family's past is beginning to re-emerge, and this time the trail leads directly to the sisters' own bank accounts. The carefully maintained illusion of 2 financially independent princesses has now sprung a critical leak, and at its heart lies a confidential money trail running straight to their personal finances. For years, Beatrice and Eugenie worked diligently to distance themselves from the very public controversies and damaging associations that had plagued their parents. They buried themselves in their professional lives, maintained low profiles, and hoped time would eventually eclipse the family's toxic legacy. But the recent disclosure of highly sensitive financial documents has shattered whatever calm they had managed to construct. Concealed within a collection of leaked internal messages is a detailed record of financial transactions that threatens to draw the daughters directly into the murky orbit of a disgraced billionaire's fortune. According to available reporting, these explosive communications originate from a period when their father was serving in an official capacity as a UK trade envoy. The files appear to map out a covert negotiation centered on a total sum of $300,000 sourced from a wealthy associate. But crucially, the arrangement reportedly did not end with the parents. The most alarming detail embedded in the paperwork is an apparent directive for $50,000 to be individually allocated to each daughter. It is important to note that being referenced in historical documents of this nature does not establish personal wrongdoing, nor does it confirm the sisters were even aware of the discussions. Yet the reputational damage has been immediate and severe. This disclosure fundamentally reframes the question of how 2 women on corporate salaries maintained an unrelenting cycle of luxury travel and high-end spending. For the first time, a possible financial explanation has been placed on the record in documentary form, and lawmakers are now pressing hard for confirmation of whether those funds were ever transferred. The princesses have reportedly maintained they have no knowledge of any such payments, but the credibility of their hard-won image of self-sufficiency has been irreparably compromised. Every business relationship, every premium asset, and every private project they are associated with is now being examined through a lens of acute suspicion. And investigators, sensing momentum, have widened their net to encompass a personal organization that was long considered an unimpeachable source of goodwill. The final protective layer around the sisters' reputations has now been breached, and the crack has appeared in the most unexpected of places. Eugenie's widely respected personal charity, a foundation committed to combating human exploitation and modern-day slavery, had long been held up as the clearest evidence that the sisters were deploying their privilege for genuine social good. It stood as the cornerstone of a redemptive public narrative, proof that behind the glamour and controversy there was meaningful substance. But a sudden and classified internal financial assessment has surfaced glaring discrepancies within the organization, setting off a wave of alarm within royal circles. Reports confirm that government regulators have formally opened a compliance investigation into the foundation, prompted by serious concerns about its fiscal conduct. The crux of the inquiry revolves around a deeply uncomfortable imbalance, specifically how public donations are being managed and distributed. Financial records are said to reveal that investigators flagged a troubling disparity. The organization was allocating twice as much money to staff wages and administrative functions as it was directing toward the actual charitable programs it was established to support. In the world of high-profile philanthropy, a government-led examination of financial stewardship is a catastrophic development. It risks destroying public confidence in an institution built on goodwill and transforming a symbol of noble intent into a reputational liability of the highest order. The stakes for the monarchy could not be more acute. Palace insiders reportedly fear that the regulatory investigation could inadvertently expose a broader network of elite donor relationships, connections the institution is determined to keep far from public view. This renewed scrutiny has effectively dismantled the story the sisters had been telling about the separation of their philanthropic and commercial identities. With their property arrangements already under parliamentary microscope and their personal financial histories now part of a live investigation, the charity controversy feels unmistakably like the final piece falling into place. The pressure is now converging from every direction simultaneously. Legislative property inquiries, disclosed financial records, and regulatory action targeting their personal charitable ventures. Public appetite for genuine transparency has reached a fever pitch, and the monarchy is edging toward a crossroads from which there may be no comfortable retreat. The historic shield of royal bloodline that once rendered the family impervious to serious scrutiny has officially been lifted, and the authority to determine their fate now lies in the hands of a new and far less forgiving establishment. For generations, proximity to the crown acted as an almost impenetrable barrier against public anger, financial accountability, and institutional consequence. But that age of unquestioned cover has conclusively ended. King Charles and Prince William are actively and systematically overhauling the monarchy from the inside out, and those on the periphery of the working royal family are being left dangerously exposed to the realities of a leaner, more modernized institution. While the king is said to favor managing the fallout with as much discretion as family loyalty permits, those close to the future monarch suggest that Prince William is approaching the situation with considerably less sentimentality. The central truth now confronting the family is both simple and unsparing. One cannot continue claiming the most coveted benefits of royal status while systematically evading the accountability and transparency that must accompany them. The era of below-market rental agreements, unchecked private business dealings, and taxpayer-funded security perks is rapidly closing as the institution recalibrates for survival in an entirely different era. What was once an internal family tension is now a high-stakes battle being waged in the full glare of public and institutional scrutiny, a fight for the very credibility and continuation of the modern crown. As external investigations begin pulling apart the terms of property leases and regulatory bodies apply, mounting pressure to personal charitable ventures, a clear and immovable line has been drawn. Those who wish to occupy privileged spaces within the royal estate must either embrace full, unconditional transparency or face a very public transition that could reshape their standing in British life permanently. The age of unchallenged entitlement is drawing to a close. The world is watching to see who will evolve and who will simply be left behind when this extraordinary chapter in royal history finally reaches its conclusion.